This is perfect, as we have a new article indicating that the Oilers are in on a new top 6 forward addition from the Pittsburgh Penguins. And this has Oilers fans absolutely fired up at what he can bring to the team this coming season. Hello everyone, welcome back to Oilers Digest. My name is Nikash Ganguli. Hope you guys are enjoying this video whenever you guys are watching it. Hope everyone is having a good time this summer. We have a major report discussing Penguins top 6 forward, amazing player, Bryan Rust, being linked to the Edmonton Oilers, and we'll be discussing how that trade could work and what he will bring to the team if he does come on over from Pittsburgh. But before we get into that and more, make sure you guys do, of course, subscribe to the channel. We are currently at 80% of viewers who are not subscribed, and we are on the road to 4,000 subs on the channel. Of course, thank you guys for 3,900 subscribers. We just hit it a couple days ago, so appreciate the support in that. We're trying to bring you all the Oilers content in the most digestible way fashionable here on Oilers Digest. So if you love the content, you love the Oilers, and you want to see all the Oilers news right when it comes out, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and you'll see our videos right when they happen, and we're covering all the news right when they drop all over all socials. Alright, so I've asked you guys to subscribe. Now, let me tell you about what today's topic is. So, we had this article come out today that says Oilers' connection to Bryan Rust makes perfect sense. And you know what? I agree with the article title. It does make perfect sense. So, let's read this real quick. While most Edmonton fans expected the Oilers to make a huge change between the pipes this offseason, they have yet to do so. Of course, it's been a main contention with Oilers fans and general manager Stan Bowman, and instead have tried to bolster their forward depth with the defense score in hopes of making another deep playoff run next season with the additions of Ike Howard, Andrew Mangiapane, and Curtis Lazar. The Oilers hope they have been able to replace the players that chose to leave them in free agency this summer, but it doesn't seem like they're quite done yet. And yes, I agree they're not quite done yet, because there have been major reports that a lot of teams in the NHL are still looking for top 6 forward help. Specifically, we had a video up about this. Dave Pagnotta of the Fourth Period also specifically singled out the Edmonton Oilers that they're going to have, they're going to be looking at a top 6 guy coming soon here. And to me, you know who fits that bill perfectly? It's none other than Pittsburgh Penguins forward, who's been in trade rumors the whole offseason, even leading all the way back to last trade deadline because the Penguins were not that great, is Bryan Rust, who has been very, very solid throughout his NHL career, riding shotgun with one of the best players ever to play in Sidney Crosby. And just looking at his career regular season stats here, in the most recent season, he was almost a point a game with 65 points and 31 goals in 71 games. Just an amazing player. And, we can ignore the plus-minus with the Pittsburgh Penguins because they weren't that good. He was a -21. I wouldn't really mind that at all. I also think plus-minus, generally speaking, is a little bit of a scuff stat. And to me, Bryan Rust is a perfect addition for the Edmonton Oilers. He would look perfect. I think right now, if we do kind of look at what the Oilers' lines are going to be right now, they have Ike Howard on the first line left wing. I don't know if he'll be able to succeed right there right away because he just simply hasn't been able to kind of play any NHL games. Getting shoved into that first line position with Connor McDavid, I'm sure is going to be helpful. But I think the Oilers need a more veteran type player there. And to me, Bryan Rust is going to be that guy. He's been a consistent point getter. 65 points, 56 points, although 46 points was a little bit of a down year a couple years ago. But aside from that, he's been pretty consistent, and his games played to points ratio always looks good, in my opinion. And he's just a solid player. He could play on the power play, play through the lineup. And I think Bryan Rust would be amazing, even if we do look at his playoff stats here. He hasn't been there in a couple years, but in his most recent run in the playoffs in 21-22, only played 7 games. Of course, he had 8 points in 7 games, over a point a game. And before that, he was half a point a game with the Pittsburgh Penguins in 2021. And then, again, 3 points in 4 games, although 0 points doesn't look good. And then, even in the cup runs, he was okay when he was a younger player coming in. Obviously, didn't play a lot of minutes. If you look at the time on ice, it slowly increased. And when he did win the cups in Pittsburgh, he was more of like a bottom 6 player and didn't really get to play that many minutes because, obviously, the team was a little better and Bryan Rust hadn't developed to the player he is now. Now, of course, you may be asking, how are the Edmonton Oilers going to afford Bryan Rust? It just doesn't seem like they'll be able to bring a player of his magnitude onto the team, given the way the salary cap is structured for them. And that is obviously an interesting question because right now, Bryan Rust makes $5.125 million for the next 3 years. Or next 2 years, sorry. And maybe you could get him at half retention, but I don't know if Kyle Dubas and co would want to retain half of Bryan Rust. Half of Bryan Rust for the next 2 years, although I don't know how good they're going to be next season. The Pittsburgh Penguins are a little bit of a polarizing team, given their forward core is pretty good. The defense has more to be desired, and their goaltending isn't good. They could be an okay team, or they could be really, really bad. So maybe that could be an issue there. But looking at Bryan Rust's age, he is already 33 years old. So at the end of the contract, he'll be 35, kind of going into the sunset of his career, which is crazy to say because I think a lot of us remember him coming in and lighting it up with the Pittsburgh Penguins being like a surprise addition for them. But I think he would be perfect on the Edmonton Oilers. Even if we do look where he's been playing in Pittsburgh lately, he's very familiar with the ability to play with top-end players. Again, Sidney Crosby, one of the best players ever, and I think he would fit perfectly with Connor McDavid or even Leon Draisaitl if that's what you really wanted to do. So I don't hate that at all for the Pittsburgh Penguins or the Edmonton Oilers. I think it could work both ways. But in terms of what the Oilers would have to give up, I think you would be kind of looking at someone who's a little younger, although they don't have a lot of prospects anymore, and the draft picks also aren't that great. I think they could maybe they'd have to move salary out. Maybe it's Henrique or Janmark, although Henrique does have a little bit of a no move clause, so Janmark would be that kind of player. If we do look at the lines here, I think Henrique is probably going to stay. He has a decent spot there. I think Adam Henrique as your 4C is perfect. Maybe a little expensive, but it's fine. And then the only player I can see them really moving out is Janmark. In terms of prospects, maybe there isn't anybody too highly touted for a Rust, or maybe they would throw a bunch of draft picks at him at the trade deadline or something like that. I don't know if this is an offseason move for the Edmonton Oilers, but I could see it happening at the trade deadline. You know, teams have more money. They know what they're looking for. Like maybe Ike Howard or Matthew Savoie is not as successful in the top six as they want it to be. And maybe the Oilers just get a little bit more desperate. Because the Oilers right now only have $225,000 in cap space. Although they do want to make a move, it will be very hard given what's going on. They also have some guys on the back end that are UFAs that might need an extension. And of course, that Connor McDavid extension is looming. But on the Penguins side of things, they would be able to take on cap if that's what the Oilers did need. They have $13 million in cap space, so a ton of cap space for them to make moves and maybe take on more salary, even retain salary. But that might drive up the price a little. I just don't know if the Edmonton Oilers have the cap space to do that as it stands. And I think people might be talking about, the Penguins aren't going to trade anyone. And I think he makes a lot of sense for the Oilers. But I think the Penguins are going to make some trades. Because it just makes too much sense to rebuild going into next season for them. I think Stan Bowman could take advantage of the situation. We do have this article from Josh Ohe of The Athletic. Penguins trading Bryan Rust or Rickard Rakell, who we've talked about in the past on this channel. A video from a couple weeks ago. You can watch that as well. Might sting, but it's the right call. So, it does seem like there are some moving pieces for the Pittsburgh Penguins in the top six forward nature. And it does seem like all reports are saying the Oilers need or want a top six forward. It makes sense given that they're going to put a lot of reliance on guys like Vasily Podkolzin, Matt Savoie, and Ike Howard. And that might not be as successful as you think. Even though McDavid and Draisaitl will be carrying the brunt of that load, I could see them wanting another veteran player to come in. You already know he's a successful NHLer. He's played well with top-tier NHLers in Sidney Crosby. He has some cap control in the next 2 years, and the salary cap is going up, so that 5.25 or whatever it was, maybe on retention won't matter as much in the next couple years. I personally think Stan Bowman should try and move the pieces around to get a Bryan Rust, but it will be harder than we may think. But I can definitely see him pulling off this move because he's put off some surprise moves before, like Jake Walmer in the past trade deadline. I don't think a lot of people saw that coming. So I think he can continue that motion too. Even a guy like Kasperi Kapanen makes like $1.3 million, which I think is a little bit rich for what he did in the regular season. The playoffs, he was good. But I can see something like that also moving in this kind of deal. So, Oilers faithful, let me know in the comments what you guys think about bringing Bryan Rust over from the Pittsburgh Penguins. How can this trade work, and would you welcome this move if Stan Bowman was able to pull it off? Let me know what you guys think, of course, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out and have a good one.